And good evening, everyone. H0 here, back with another TV review. I'm gonna arch my arm a little bit so I can hold the camera a little bit better. Hopefully, you guys can all hear me, cause I got folks in the house, of course, and trying to be as eccentric with the conversation. But I'm gonna talk about the series overall, not the two episodes four slash two episodes that I have on this disc. The cool thing, what I can say is, one of the episodes, of course, is direct title nod to the comic book. It was the Green Lantern on trial who was hunted by the Manhunters for a false crime that he didn't commit. But it's more of the technical side, a little bit of how the Justice League, the cartoon animated series that came together. Of course, it all started with Batman and you know Fox and whatnot. At the time, they saw how good Batman was doing. Warner Brothers also partnered with them, and they decided to let the team to do Superman. And ironically, bit by bit, with both series, you know, characters that later appeared on the Justice League, they also appeared, on Batman and Superman shows. One Superman episode I really liked the most, which I somewhat consider a Justice League episode, is when Flash was on there. And of course, it was the iconic, that iconic moment between them slash rivalry, and which was in the comics and as well as the new Justice League movie, and them racing each other, and it was just a nice, funny, quirk. And there was some other jumping around the references too. I had one just in my head right now, and I completely forgot what it was. But yeah, the DC animated universe, it really got expanded very, very really, really outward with this series. The only issue, of course, is that not every single hero had their own show. Again, Batman and Superman were the forefronts, like everyone else in the comics, and a little bit with the movies too. They're all getting their own thing, and of course, mimicking Marvel cinematic universe, which I completely agree with. But the weird thing is that with Marvel, most of their A-list characters had their own series as well. Like the Hulk had his own show, Iron Man, Spider-Man, the X-Men. Yeah, so it is kind of somewhat bougie, but I think I want to say DC had beat them first, starting with Batman. I could be wrong. You could try to correct me in the comments if you can, because I think X-Men had came out the same year, but I can't remember which cat came first. But again, this is another series in my childhood because I remember this coming out 2001, and I remember, of course, in 2001, the three major big things, had happened. It was two, dealing with television, and then you had what happened outside of it politically, and I'm gonna say it, of course, and ironically, because they did do an episode of it, of what was it, the secret history of comic books, but I haven't watched it yet, and I think it was more the reflection of real life heroes, and then you know comic book counterparts. And again, that's just me assuming, but it was 9/11. That was a big huge impact even on me. I'm 11 years old watching thousands of people die that quick on live television, and it's happened before, but at that point I'm a kid reading it in a history book, but living it is completely different. And you know at the same time, I think Smallville had came out on television too, so it impacted that as well. And then of course Spider-Man had the movie Spider-Man. They had cut one of the trailers because it showed the World Trade Center. They didn't want to get too political on it because I remember not seeing the trailer again. And of course, me being glued to the TV as a kid, me watching it all day, like what Tarantino has said in previous interviews, he had this fondness of cinema, and every kid had their thing, whether it was television, sports, or just learning. Mostly sports is the big thing, and you being into literature and all that really wasn't frowned upon. So I am thankful that I did have that childhood at least, and of course I did see some sun. I didn't get glued to the television all the time, and also that was around the same time. I was heavily into anime. This is when the height of the anime was really reaching its peak around the mid 2000s. You had a lot of stuff coming out beyond Dragon Ball Z. That was just phenomenal that I remembered. And again, when we get to the anime stuff and animation in general with other films that I have in my private collection, I'll talk more about it. But right now, back on topic with the Justice League, I was very happy and grateful for the show because, the cool thing, every single hero, they were very different in very distinctive ways. Batman, to me, I can say this was a little bit of the Wolverine of the team. He was there, but he acted mostly alone. And then, of course, in the comics, he also stated in the event of a darker stories, he really didn't trust them, and he had weaknesses on every single hero on how to take them down in case they did go rogue. Flash, of course, was a comic relief. Superman was the brute leader. He was the front line. Wonder Woman was the humanitarian peacekeeper, not most of the time. John Stewart was the war veteran or had the military experience. Hawk Girl was a no-nonsense, detective, and you could say a little bit of a warrior. And then you have Martian Manhunter, who was so wise with all his wisdom. And, even though only three of the heroes I personally love, which is Wonder Woman, Batman, and Green Lantern, I did like the characteristics of the other ones because, pretty much everyone has their own strength, even on the team, and that's how it really was. So, they say most teams are usually a good team is a good family unit, and that's how it's really supposed to be. That's one of the reasons why the X-Men were so good, and also Fantastic Four. Those team, the Avengers, those and also Teen Titans, the 5 major teams. So, it's always fun to see that dynamic and how it plays in the story and how each character somewhat grows right after that, experience. But the cool thing through the animated series, I learned a little bit more about different characters, that I was introduced through the show and not the comics. So I know Deadshot was one. I want to say Aquaman too. And of course, the Guardians, the Manhunters, Mongol, Hera, Zeus, even though those are Greek mythology, but DC took a toll on its own, and pretty much the only bad thing I can really say about it is the follow-up series, which was Justice League Unlimited, where they had every single hero there from Batgirl to Power Girl. But again, the issue was that they had too many heroes. It seemed like they were trying to rush to get to the ending. And, when we get to Batman Beyond, it's a funny finale that happens. And my best friend had even told me, and I had to look it up on YouTube, and it was true. So when we get to that, I'm also going to talk about that because they keep jumping with things in continuity. I really think it's an alternate timeline because the Justice League, they do appear in the future in Batman's time, but there is a slight twist to what happens with Superman, and again, I'm going to say what it is because they even showed it on his show of what happened to him on one particular episode. I remember seeing it, so I can't wait to get into that, and of course, talk about the crossovers with Batman and him meeting the League. No, my bad. Static Shock. Yeah, the crossovers with Static Shock and him meeting the League, and so many multitude of things that I remember seeing and took note of mentally because, I'm a writer, so I see those inspiring things. And even I have to go back on YouTube and watch the clips, to get a nice little refresher. But other than that, for any new person of the generation, definitely, watch this. I believe you really should read the comics and watch this before you see the Justice League movie. because that's just how I am, you know. At least one or the other. You don't have to do the two. That's just my opinion. Uh, and that's pretty much all that I have. I know most I got a little bit personal, but I guess because of the previous documentaries I saw on AMC, you know, The Secret History of Comic Books, and you know how it inspired me even more to what I'm doing now. And sorry about the glare on the screen. I know you guys can just see the words and not the, you know, the characters. I know you probably see Batman because I can see it through the lens. But yeah, talk to you guys later. Peace.